Hello? Right, that's fine. Standing by. 11? I think that's the only one we do today, is it? Or do we do a 1 o'clock? 11 and 1, I'll be standing by if spared. Excellent, Ian. Thank you very much. We're just about to go live.
We'll get clue number 2. Goodness knows where that's going to take us.
Yeah, hearing it loud and clear.
The Red Brick Barn in Rochford by the Miniature Railway. Allwells County is where Saxons are buried. Public meetings hold curtains. At the Red Brick Barn, and that was the bit at the railway. Public meetings holding curtains.
Because now
a Bell has gone. Talk of the devil, we were talking about someone with the surname Bell.
Extraordinary, yes.
But this particular one, talk about a seamless link, this particular one is irrelevant to that, because the Bell we're talking about has just sounded, which means that we're just about to go live, and we're waiting now for the players to emerge. I'll be going into the BBC Essex 11 o'clock news in around about 5 minutes, and as always on the local station, they're having a treasure hunt at the moment. So nobody's found anything yet. Anyway, it's going to be 59 for 2. Essex will resume 17 behind. And we've had 2 good days here, Guy.
Absolutely. No, we thoroughly enjoyed our cricket here. Essex, after they were put in on day 1, wonderful 100 from Robin Dass, some good practice too for the two of the 4 Irish guys who are involved in the Essex team, both Mark Adair and George Dockrell scoring valuable runs. And then we saw a wonderful 100 from Paul Sterling yesterday. Lorcan Tucker unlucky, injured just as he reached the 90s and was out for 97. Andrew McBride with another half century, and Fionn Hand left high and dry on 48. And for Essex, well, Jamal Richards staked a claim for a first team spot with his 5 wickets for 96 on his first class debut. And then we saw Robin Dass get going again in the second innings, so nicely set up for day 3.
Yes, it is indeed, and I think this first hour, as we observed yesterday, Guy, delighted to be joined by Guy Swindle's 4 yesterday, today, because it's so much nice to work with 3, and Victoria Polly will be joining us at 11:30. But I think this first hour is going to be the telling one in terms of whether we're likely to get a result in the game, because whatever help there's been in the pitch so far on the first 2 days has been exclusively with the mixture of the new ball, which is still fairly new here. We've had 15 overs with it, and in the first hour, and if Ireland don't make early breakthroughs, Guy, I can't see this being anything other than a draw.
No, absolutely right. The 2 results we were talking about this late last night, weren't we? That the 2 possible results you would feel at the moment are an Ireland win or the draw. I think Essex, an extraordinary set of circumstances would be needed for Essex to pinch victory in this, but it's not really about winning and losing for this one. It's about Ireland getting some practice ahead of the first test against England that starts on Thursday, and some young Essex players staking their claim. And so far, there's been pretty good news on both those fronts.
Yeah, and I don't think they could have asked for anything much better from the game. They've had all 15 of their squad involved, with the 4 who weren't in the 11, which doesn't mean that they were picking the 11 on the basis of their best 11. They want a fairly even game, so they've probably put 2 of their best players at the very least in with the Essex side, and Essex have agreed. We're going to see Craig Young, who I don't think we saw last night actually, but he's going to be opening the bowling from the river end with Essex on 59 for 2, and certainly Robin Dass last night, I didn't see his 132 on day 1, but he played well enough making 27 for me to understand how he could make 132. I hope I haven't just talked him out first ball, as he now leans over his bat and Young bowls to him very correctly. He gets that left foot down the track and across and plays it all along the ground to short extra, and 59 for 2 as we were. But what an impressive match Das has had.
He really has. That first innings, the 132, that's impressive enough. But off 114 deliveries against an international attack makes it look even better. And this, he's 27 from 27. He's scoring at a run a ball again.
Exactly. And that's without overtly throwing the bat as Young bowls to him. And appeal for LBW here. It turned him round a little bit. And I think the only appeal was from behind the wicket rather than in front. It was going to fade down leg side.
Yeah, and only from the slips. The wicket-keeper wasn't interested either. No, absolutely.
So perhaps it needs someone to go up and say, now listen, you three, that's your one for the day. But we have noticed that LBW decisions, particularly on day 2, were in fact non-existent.
Yep.
As Young comes up again and bowls, and that's a lead outside off stump. Apologies for the slight noise off you'll hear of the BBC Essex News Bulletin, which is we're going to be joining in about 3 minutes time. But 17 behind as we speak are Essex, and we've got another lovely morning here. If there is any sign of a cloud in the sky, it's just an overall slight very high white colour, but it's not interfering with the sun very much as Young runs in again. River End bowls, and that ball has been beautifully late cut, so late that I wondered for a moment, has he actually hit it? 4 runs, and again, that was such a lovely cricket stroke, it really was. Exquisitely played, couldn't play it better, 63 for 2.
Well, that was the shot he was driving the Irish attack mad with in the first innings, when it must at least 6, possibly 10 times. He just played this beautiful late guided shot in the gap between point and the slip cordon, all along the ground, and it's what you just said, Paul, it's his ability to play it so late. That's the thing that is just such a joy to watch.
That, if there is such a thing, was a posthumous cut. And Young will bowl to him again. 3 slips, 2 be sun-hatted, a wait, and there's a lovely on drive. Can the fielder get there? He does. He did brilliantly to save 4. However, they will get 1, and the score moves along 64 for 2, of which Das's share is exactly half, 132 in the first innings, 32 not out in the second, and 63 for 2 reduces the deficit now to 13.
I think Robin Das thought that was 4 from the moment he hit the bat, because he held the pose for really a very long time and then realised he actually had to run. So they might have got 2.
Yeah, another pedigree shot. Young's in. Bowls, and this ball is just steered out into the covers there from the bat of Curtis Campher, one of the 4 Irishmen in the Essex side. So we will be going into the news bulletin very shortly now, so I'll probably slightly have to impinge upon your first over commentary. Guy, I'd probably better stay with it until we're done, but we'll soon be through with it. And 64 for 2, just 12 behind now, Essex, and those 2 shots, top draw from Robin Das. Oh, hang on, here we go. So certainly Das. A very good morning indeed, Nick. 64 for 2, another glorious day here. And let me just explain, as Essex are now only 12 runs behind, the unusual contours of this game. It's not about who wins, Essex v Ireland, because the 4 of the Irish squad of 15 who are not playing for Ireland are actually in the Essex side here. And it's an exercise to get the Irish team into practice before next week's single test match in the series. The match has been, as much as anyone, about Robin Das, who made 132 in the first innings, and he is a genuine Essex Academy product, and he's looked every bit as good in reaching 32 not out in the second. 5 runs have been added this morning. Essex have moved on to 64 for 2, with Campher, one of the 4 Irishmen in the Essex side, 6 not out at the other end. If wickets don't go down in the first hour, then I think the match will peter out into a draw, but we've seen some great cricket in great weather. Essex 12 behind on 64 for 2.
Commentary continues on the BBC Sport website and app. Weather updates here on the radio.
Graham Hume to continue then. And that is flicked away up in the air, and unfortunately Robin Dass's rather beautiful looking innings has gone to an unfortunate shot. He tried to flick the ball away on the leg side, got a bit of a leading edge. It went to the shortish mid-wicket. It was catching practice in the end, and Dass, well, he falls 100 runs short of his first innings score. 132 in the first innings, 32 in the second, but the wicket is gone, and Hume, who bowled so well last night, has a second wicket, 2 for 15. As we just watch the replay here in our commentary booth, and we can see that he just didn't get into the right position to try and play that shot, which meant that he ended up with a leading edge, and he has gone. And that is a great shame for the fans here, who might not have arrived bang on time at the start, because they're not going to see any more of the impressive Robin Dass. 64 for 3 now, Essex.
Well, that is such a shame. Because we're sort of saying that from a neutral point of view, really, just wanted to see more of a terrific young talent. A couple of lessons for him to learn from just the second delivery he'd received in his second innings last night. He tried the pull shot, got away with it. We'll give him credit that he knew the mid-wicket was up, but it was too soon in the innings to have played that shot regardless. And here today, he's turned the blade of the bat handle too soon, arrived at the shot before the ball was properly there for him, and it's just taken the leading edge, as Guy has said, and lolloped up for a catch of anticlimactic ease, rather like the one from which Lorcan Tucker fell in the end yesterday, where the fieldsman saying it really can't be this easy, can it? It's such a shame, because, as I said, it's nothing to do with being biased. We have lost the prospect of another scintillating innings from a very fine young talent. But again, that's the first ball he received from Hume of the morning. He should be having a look at it first.
Yes, well, he is a very young man still, so lessons will be learned. But it's good to see him at least trying to play the shots. That seems to be the thrust of the game these days, as Hume is into the new batter, Dockrell, who immediately, first ball, which is slightly over-pitched on or around middle stump, drives it most pleasingly up through the mid-on area and trots through for 2. And Hume is cross with himself, staring heavenward. Not the delivery first up to a new batter when you want to keep him under pressure, even if it is your regular Irish teammate George Dockrell. But Dockrell batted very nicely indeed in the first innings. 74 he made on that occasion, and he and the Ireland squad will be hoping that he can continue that good form in the second. Hume in once again though, and that's a much better delivery, just short of a length, and just played down in front of him by Dockrell. Hume in his follow through picks the ball up and then begins his weary trudge back to his bowling mark.
Well, we see the value of great fielding, because when we think back, we had 2 sumptuous cricket strokes played by Dass in the previous over. One, the late cut for 4, the second, imperious straight drive, but the mid-on fieldsman threw himself full length, turned a 4 into a 1. Otherwise, Dass wouldn't have been facing the ball he was out to.
Sliding doors moments, and on that occasion, that is left outside off stump. It's wide and an easy leave as far as Dockrell is concerned.
Yes, many's the time I've been caught in a sliding door, and it's well described by yourself. Such a shame, because you just feel that from the entertainment point of view, the very best we were sort of looking forward to on the day has turned into very little almost immediately.
Well, one of the joys, though, I imagine that, is that a strangle down the leg side? Well, at first there was a half an appeal from the bowler, but then realised it had just flicked off the pad, and there is no run. So a decent over again from Hume. He now has the excellent figures of 3 for 16 from his 6 overs. Campher will want to spend more time at the crease than he did in the first innings, when he was rather cut off LBW to a ball that might well have been missing the leg stump. Hence, I think, the word that came on high for day 2. And he and Dockrell will be looking to spend time at the crease and try and book their places in that Ireland team to face England.
Yes, well, one man who won't be disappointed at missing out on Robin Dass's second 100 of the match, the man who dismissed him, Graham Hume. He's got all 3 wickets. He's bowled thoroughly well. We were very impressed with him last night. Meanwhile, Craig Young up from the river end, bit of inside edge into pad, and back the ball goes down toward mid-off. There's no run, 66 for 3. I missed who the catcher was there.
Yes, I'm still waiting for confirmation. Let me just have a look. And
Oh, it's McCullum.
the opener, James McCollum.
Yep, thank you very much, Victoria. Will be joining us at 11:30. And Young's up, 3 slips. There's a very, very nice off drive here, and that's going to go through. Now, whether it quite has the legs to reach the boundary, possibly not. 2 fieldsmen are herring after it, and the ball of its own volition pulls itself up about 7 yards from the fence. But they come back for 3, which will take the score along to 69 for 3. And Campher moves up to 9 with that triple, and Dockrell comes in to strike on 2.
Yes, and they actually eased up to the 3rd run, and the final throw wasn't very good. I think in a one-day match they might well have tried to run all 4.
Why not?
To that particular vast expanse on that side of the field, because, as we mentioned before, there is one short boundary and one not so short boundary.
I don't think Paul Sterling would have been looking for a 4th there, but here's Young in bowls, and that ball was an appeal for a strangle. Not going to be given. George Dockrell, the man on strike. I don't think he did hit it, actually. We've seen great honesty, actually. Whenever anybody has hit the ball throughout yesterday, if they knew they'd hit it, they just walked straight off without waiting for an umpire's decision. Very sporting contest, as it was almost bound to be. 69 for 3.
Just looking at the replay, certainly the bowler didn't think there was a touch, and it does seem to have flicked off almost the top of the hip of George Dockrell. So quite right, the umpire's decision.
This is a nice ball tucked off the pads here. Very pleasant shot indeed from Dockrell. 2 runs as the ball is fielded near the square leg boundary. And they can come back for the second. 71 for 3. 5 behind now. Dockrell, I didn't see his first innings knock, but he's immediately looks in decent touch. And that ball just pitching on Midland leg gave him the licence to clip it off the pads. Rather the ball, I'm afraid, that Robin Dass got out to, because I think he tried to flick the ball rather nonchalantly away through mid-wicket without having seen Hume, without getting his eye in on the day, as it were. As this next ball is a short one from Young that the batsman Dockrell ducks under and leaves it to one of yesterday's heroes, Lorcan Tucker, who made 97, and everybody knows he would have got 100, but for the strange incident with his left hand that preceded his then dismissal. 71 for 3 on the board at the moment.
Yeah, George Dockrell was part of a really entertaining 124-run partnership in the first innings with that young man Dass.
Young bowls. Keeps it a bit low, if anything, which is a trait of this Chelmsford pitch generally. Goes down to long leg, they get a single. 72 for 3, 4 behind now. And Dockrell will move up to 5, and he'll keep the strike thereby. That's the last ball of the over. And just to repeat once again, we've got today, in terms of the weather. It's possibly just, you can argue, a little bit more very high white cloud up above, but I could see that dissipating as the sun really picks up its strength, and this match has been blessed by 3 days of glorious weather.
It really has. It's every morning turning up, beautiful sunshine. No, there's no threat of any interruptions for the day ahead, which must be great for the players, but also the end of a long day in the sun yesterday. Certainly the Essex fielders were beginning to tire, you felt, but Hume not tiring at the moment as he comes charging in again. Lovely straight drive, and it's through the diving fielder this time. Unlike that Dass on drive earlier, this one does go straight through the fielder for 4. Dockrell, who's immediately onto anything that's slightly over-pitched from Hume. He played that shot with a little less power off the very first ball he faced. And we'll just see that again, and absolutely beautiful timing.
I like what I'm seeing of him. He tends to bat correctly, but to look to score. And I think that's the way to go about it, actually, nowadays. Always look to score, but to keep within the rules.
Hume in once again, and this time a tempter outside off stump, which in the end is nicely played by Dockrell, who kept his bat high and let the ball go through. A man who started as a spinner who batted and then has turned himself into a batter who spins. So just had a slight change of career priorities since his early days at Somerset.
I think he's done the right thing. It's not that he bowled badly yesterday, he didn't, but he didn't really look to have enough tricks to be a pure spinner.
Hume in again, and this time, despite being squared up a little, it's played nicely out into the offside by Dockrell, and they go through for an easy single.
But we saw one or two examples of bowlers for Ireland with the bat yesterday down the tail end, and a couple of them really took the eye. Andy McBride with a superb 67, but Fionn Hand would frighten the life out of me coming in at number 9. Not only is he powerfully built and can hit the ball a long way, but he bats beautifully, so correctly, and his defence is first class.
Yes, it was a real pleasure to watch, as in again comes Hume, and this time Curtis Campher is happy to play that dispensively. He's barely faced a ball yet this morning, Curtis Campher, so just going to play himself in.
Yeah, 48 not out Ham was yesterday, and to be honest, you could have said that people would stay with him for another hour, I think he'd have got 100.
Yeah, well, he was going to run a ball as well.
He was, yeah, probably didn't need an hour actually. Another sort of 40 minutes or so would probably have seen him get to the 3 figures. Remarkable to have a man like that at number 9.
And that is allowed to pass outside off stump. Hume certainly bending his back, but at the moment, after that impressive first over or so, just perhaps losing his line a little.
Yeah, and I think it's possible as well that it's not going to, now the ball's getting a little bit older, it's probably done the most it's going to do in the innings last night. But he is impressive, Hume. I think I think he can cause some trouble to the England batsmen next week.
In again, and this time he gets a little extra bounce. And it's well played by Campher in the end, who up on his toes plays the ball down into the ground. That is the end of another tidy over as far as Hume is concerned. Yes, apart from the 4 off the first ball from it, but 3 for 21 from 7 overs. Most bowlers would be most satisfied with that return.
I think one of his strengths, Hume, he is kind of like a good poker player. He can look fairly sort of routine for a couple of overs, and then suddenly he'll produce an absolute jaffer that any batsman is going to struggle to come to terms with. It might come in terms of the extra bounce or a little bit of movement, maybe a little bit of extra pace, and you don't see it coming. There's no apparent change in his action, between his stock deliveries and the ones that can really do the damage. So a lot of time for him. Mark Adair also bowled very well when conditions were more helpful yesterday morning. Overall, I think that is the major worry I'd have about Ireland, whether there's enough variety in the attack, just based on what we've seen in this game. So this ball is a fairly slow delivery, military medium there from Craig Young. And it's played back down the pitch to mid-on, and there's no run. It kept a little bit low again. And the 2 not out batsmen are George Dockrell, currently on strike on 10, and he's immediately looked in touch. And Campher has never totally looked in touch, if I'm honest, but he's there on a solid 9 not out. Young will bowl to Dockrell. 3 slips and a leg gully. Interesting position there, as this ball is just played along the ground down to 3rd slip. Not an edge, just deliberately angled down. No run. 77 for 3. Essex, you lead by 1.
Finally in the lead. It's been interesting to see how little the ball is deviating and swinging this morning,
yes.
Which we've seen the other 2 mornings. The ball doing a little bit, but at the moment 2 bowlers who did manage to get the ball to move on day 1 are struggling to do the same on day 3.
So Young bowls. Ooh, and that is not the best shot from Dockrell, and it was an airy waft at a ball just outside off stump, and Craig Young has every right to feel a little bit cheesed off because how he didn't edge that, and fortunate to get away with that. 77 for 3.
It was a much better ball than that shot would imply, and I'm not quite sure what George Dockrell was trying to do on that. I think he might have thought perhaps it was going to be slightly over pitched. It wasn't. Absolute beauty. And how did it miss the bat, but how did it miss the stumps?
Yeah.
It was about an inch away from the bail.
Young bowls again. Oh, that's got to be close. And my conspiracy theory is only amplified by that, because I didn't think that was lifting much either. I thought it kept a bit low. It was a cut backer again, an off cutter. And well, gone for all money for me in any normal game, but we don't mean that in a grumbling sort of way. We strongly suspect that amongst the many special requests for this game, because Ireland want the practice, was a request that perhaps the odd LBW decision that you might normally give out is eschewed, and as long as it's the same for both sides, but out all day long for me under normal rules, as Young is in and bowls, and that goes through to the wicket keeper. Just going back to the ball before the LBW non-decision, there was absolutely no foot movement whatsoever to the waft. He just, Dockrell, who'd impressed us previously, but he stayed exactly where he was and just sort of threw the bat at the ball without any movement. So the balance was all wrong. The reason why it went straight through him was because the ball cut back, and because there was no foot movement, there was a gap, quite a large one, between bat and pad, and as you say, it could have bowled him, they could have trapped him LBW, there's all sorts of ways he might have been out, but he survived. But I don't think he should have done for the next one, as here is Young into and now bowls. And that one's caught him in the goolies. That is an unpleasant one. He will recover, but it's one of those awful things where people giggle away in the background and say, oh dear. And I'm just trying to think, actually, Brian Johnston wasn't the man you wanted on commentary if you've just been struck in places like that. Because Brian, one of the great broadcasters of all time, let me hasten to add, but he always broadcast with a smile in his voice, and those were the moments where he was in his element. But the over ends with the batsman still on his haunches, and they'll bring him something to bring him round a little bit from the pavilion. But that it was nasty because he cuts the ball back, Young. And
that was a really good over.
It was, yes.
After saying he wasn't moving it around much, he corrected that. He pitched it up and caused all sorts of problems. It was LBW. I thought at first that there'd been a little inside edge, possibly. That's why it wasn't given. But after watching several replays, it was pretty obvious that he hadn't hit it. And it is just that Irish people are not going to be given out LBW, as we actually see another. This time it's him being hit, as I think the ball rolled up the pad into the delicate area.
Yeah.
And but he is obviously feeling that one. But you also feel for the bowler a bit after not getting him LBW when he should have done. Perhaps that's an element of revenge.
Yeah, I'd have to say, if I were coaching the Essex side, I'd be saying, if I might put an idea in your heads, lads, hopefully one or two of you know a bit of the Blarney. And when you get out to the middle there, the umpires can't be too sure whether you're English or Irish. Say, top of the morning to your umpire. Because I think if he thinks you're Irish, you're not going to get an LBW against you. You need all the help you can get when you're batting. When you're a bowler, you can bowl the biggest load of rubbish you've ever seen and pick up 2 wickets. Ian Botham did it many a time.
Oh, he got the amount of wickets he got with bad balls.
Oh,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. He made an art out of it. I remember once he'd been out of Test cricket with injury for quite a few months. And he came back, I think it was at Trent Bridge, but it doesn't matter where it was. First ball was a rank long hop, which the batsman managed to plant straight into Gooch's hands in the gully.
Yep.
And you could see Gooch saying, "You jammy old..."
Well, Gooch's remark was, "Who writes your scripts?"
Oh, yes, it was. That's right. Yeah. Anyway, George Dockrell, I'm happy to say, I won't say he's recovered, but he's going to carry on.
Yes, he's got his breath back enough to put the gloves back on. He's still crouching in a slightly uncomfortable manner, and that may continue for a little while yet.
And I think he probably said to Young, "I thought you were on my side."
Well, he should have walked with that LBW decision, I think, would have been the response. But Hume is in once again, and that is outside off stump. There is a little bit of movement on this occasion, but starts wide and goes wider, so it's left alone by Curtis Campher. It's a good maiden over from Craig Young.
Yes, it was. And the thing about a bowler like Young, yes, he is, as I described, in military medium, but these Irish bowlers are very, very powerfully built. They make one heck of a scrum, and if you get hit by one, it doesn't mean it won't hurt a great deal.
Yep, heavy ball on occasion, as Hume is in again. And that is outside off stump and punched away nicely off the back foot into the cover area. Should be at least 2. They settle for that, but nicely on top of the ball, and a decent stop as well out on the boundary by Harry Tector to ensure that they can only take 2.
Indeed, yes, just flicked it back a yard or 2 from the boundary. He's not electric over the turf. It's a slightly strange running style, Harry Tector, but very fine young player. Looking forward to see how he gets on next week.
Yes, he probably didn't do himself huge justice in the first innings, but
took a brilliant catch to get rid of him.
Absolutely, as Hume is in again, and this is played nicely defensively into the covers. Just caressed into that area without any real power, just happy to play defensively and just spend some time at the crease, you feel at the moment, Curtis Campher.
Yeah, it's just sun as yet is still slightly checked by this high white cloud. It was a strange sort of night actually. Went very misty indeed around about 7 o'clock this morning. No sign of any sun, and quite a mist around.
Now as Hume is in once again. Yes, as the sun, they're pretty heavy dews at the moment with the cold wind that's coming in, so it takes a little time for the dew to clear in the morning, but by about 8 o'clock it was as it should be for a summer's day for cricket.
Yeah. No, we've waited a long time for weather like this, and even now it's not hot weather actually, it's warm, but I have to say I'm someone who doesn't like it when the temperature gets anywhere near 80, so mid-70s is my ideal. We haven't quite got there yet.
No, the north wind switches will have a chance, but Hume is in once again, and that is driven nicely but straight at the man at cover, who extra cover, who fields nicely.
Yeah, I think it's McCullum there, and good stop, but beautiful shot. And what's been good about the cricket, I didn't see day one, and there was a lot that was clearly good about that. We've seen some beautiful shots played, and pitch is a good one, the ball coming onto the bat, and we've also seen some excellent bowling when there's been enough help there for the bowlers to have a bit of a chance. Generally speaking, once this ball is much more than the current 20 overs old though, it's tough work.
Hume in once again, still getting bounce, but again just a little bit too wide on this occasion to cause the batter any particular problems. So Campher lifts his arms high, lets the ball go through to the wicket keeper. Just 2 runs in the over, so the lead goes up to 3 for Essex currently, 79 for 3. Campher 11 not out, Dockrell 10 not out, and be interesting now to see the continuation of this battle between Craig Young and George Dockrell.
Well, indeed. Paul Newton here with Guy Swindles, and at the end of this over we'll bring Victoria Polly in to join us. I discovered this morning that my battery in the car was as flat as a pancake, and absolutely the AA man said, I'm afraid you've got more than one problem here. Young is in and bowls, and that's driven 4 runs. What a magnificent shot that was. I was just referring to the quality of stroke play, a glorious off drive there, very straight drive really. 83 for 3, Essex now lead by 7. And George Dockrell there at his best shows he's recovered from his blow in the unmentionables. 14 to him, but unfortunately I'm going to need all sorts of repairs to the car, so I came by train, and I must say a very good service. I'm relieved that it wasn't one of the days when, or it was one of the days where they're actually working. This ball is played away through backward point and probably going to go for 4. Feels no chance of pulling that one up. Dockrell to 18. Wasn't quite the quality of shot of the previous one in that he played it a bit away from the body. It was a little bit of a thick outside edge, but enough to go to the boundary. 87 for 3, leading by 11. But credit where it's due, the train was actually busier than a rush hour train, and there were 12 coaches as well.
Wow.
But the new sets are pretty good, and it did the trip from Colchester to Chelmsford in 14 minutes flat. And you know, that's some going. I have to say I was impressed, and I thought, well, it's very upsetting that the car couldn't make it today, but this is quite a nice way of sort of managing to get to the ground in time.
No, you were in luck. There wasn't a bus replacement service.
Yes, that's right, and in luck that the AA man said, well, come along, I'll drop you off at the station. This ball is clipped away for a single to long leg. 88 for 3, Dockrell to 19. Yeah, unfortunately, I mean, normally the AA are very, very good and can mend your car on the spot. Car was in my drive, and if it had just been the battery, but unfortunately it's the drive wheel, not the drive wheel, I'm trying to think what the term is for it, but the alternator, which is, I'm afraid that is going to be quite expensive. So he said, I'm afraid I can't guarantee you we've got the part in stock. And I said, well, it'd be lunchtime before we could fix it, as the next ball is still a good one. Good one from Young, bowling to Campher, who's always been a little bit tentative out there throughout his innings, and one up to the bowler there. And after a moderate start, Young's bowled really well in the last couple of overs, for all the fact he's been hit for 2 boundaries in this one. It's 88 for 3, leading by 12, Essex.
No, you're absolutely right. The first ball was slightly overpitched of the over, and it was a glorious shot from Dockrell, but the second 4 was much more of a smear of a ball that was of good length, but Dockrell got enough on it, but nothing much the bowler could have done to bowl much better for that second delivery.
Young is in, bowls, and this is played into the covers. There's no run. 88 for 3. The drive belt is the expression that I was searching in vain for. I've got no clue about how a car works, or a cow for that matter. And yeah, so that in itself is not a big problem once it's mended, but
the alternator is.
Yeah, I'm afraid that's the one. However, I can't grumble. The car's done me fabulous service for well over a decade, and wasn't new in the first place. I think I've done something like 182,000 in it in the last 12 years. Here's the next ball, and that's another lovely drive, and showing the maker's name to the bowler there. That's beautifully played by Campher, and if he's been the more tentative of the pair, certainly that was a top draw shot, and Young will feel a little bit aggrieved there in that it wasn't actually a bad over at all, but he's just slightly over pitched, and I think he's right to pitch it up. 92 for 3. This is where I depart, and we'll be joined by Victoria Polly joining Guy Swindles.
Thank you, Paul. Yes, the bowler was frustrated with that particular delivery. You could hear the gasp of exasperation after he knew he had overpitched, and the ball, while slowing down, just did that thing for the 2 fielders who were in hot pursuit. It just literally popped over the boundary rope just as they were reaching it. But it is 4 runs and a good shot from Curtis Campher. Dockrell going nicely, having survived a very adjacent LBW shout. But Hume is to continue, and this is nicely played again by Dockrell, and the fielder gets something on it as he falls onto the ball in an effort to try and stop it. The mid off, but they can still go through for a single. Victoria Polly is now getting herself ready, just making sure that the microphone is turned on.
I'm all sorted.
Morning, Victoria.
Good morning. Lovely morning for it again.
Isn't it fantastic? Perfect cricket weather here. I put the sun cream on, so it is once again Hume to continue from the Grey Hayes close end, and he's bowled tidily this morning. He's also picked up the 1 wicket to fall out of Robin Das, who in many ways rather got himself out.
Yeah, disappointed to see the end of Robin Das so soon this morning. Really enjoyed watching him bat on Friday and get that maiden first-class century. And was some lovely shots again from him, even just the few balls that he was in this morning. But yes, still some stuff to learn for the 21-year-old, I think.
Absolutely right, as Hume is in again, and both batters looking to play on and off drives at the moment. And that was Campher again, who got his foot forward, played the ball very nicely, straight to the fielder though at extra cover, so there is no run. But certainly looking to attack wherever possible, the 2 Irish batters. Campher also, after not spending as much time as George Dockrell did at the crease in the first innings, looking to get a little time ahead of Thursday, and that is a glorious cut. The ball was just a little bit short, a little bit wide, only a little bit short and a little bit wide, but you wouldn't have known that from the way that Curtis Campher cut the ball away superbly for 4, the ball going like a rocket to the boundary. Once it was past the fielder, he just knew it was going all the way.
Yeah, I think Paul was saying this morning that a couple of wickets for Ireland might give this game something on the final day, but the way these two are batting at the moment, it might be difficult. Although we have seen Hume get the wickets.
Indeed, indeed. So it's where, yes, who's going to get the rest of the wickets? Just having a little look around. Tom May's Fionn Hand's bowled nicely in this match so far, so I'm sure he'll be getting a go in a minute as Hume continues though, and this is better length and line, and is just played defensively up to the man at mid-off where Tom Mays does the fielding. Another of these very tall Irish bowling attack. Curtis Campher, born in Johannesburg, and up against Graham Hume, who also began his life and career in South Africa, played for the South African under-19s before switching to the Irish cause. Just a bit of a change of field at the moment as the man at mid-wicket goes out much, much deeper, so there are plenty of singles and twos on the leg side. Hume, however, bowls a foot outside off stump. It's allowed to go through to the wicketkeeper. That is the end of Hume's 9th over. He has the impressive figures of 3 for 28 from those 9 overs. Campher is 19 not out. Dockrell 20 not out. Campher from 33 balls is 19. Dockrell racing rather faster, 20 from 21. 97 for 3, and Essex lead by 21.
BBC Essex Cricket at gmail.com if you want to get in touch via email with us today. Let us know where you're listening or watching, and at BBC Essex Sport on Twitter as well, the ways to get in touch. Craig Young is going to continue from the river end, bowling to George Dockrell. Essex 97 for 3. And in comes Young past the umpire to Dockrell, who cuts that one away. He's got the fielders chasing into the offside for it, but he's going to run all the way to the boundary for 4 runs off the first ball of the over.
Lovely, wasn't it? Up on his toes, back foot punch through the covers. Lovely shot by Dockrell. And if anybody is off, particularly length, Dockrell is onto it like a shot.
A ripple of applause around the county ground for the 100 up for Essex. And not quite as many people in the Tom Pearce upper as we've seen. People with Bank Holiday Sunday plans as Young is into Dockrell, up on his toes again, just dabs that one into the offside. That will be fielded for a single.
Yes, they ran quite extravagantly for that single, considering it was always there. But both the batters sprinting as if they're Usain Bolt, but I don't think the fielder was ever going to try and throw down the stumps. However, it is 1 more to Dockrell.
Campher now on strike, 19 runs. Dockrell with 25, and Young just waiting for the ball to return to him. Yes, a few people out in the sunshine, some binoculars and caps, sunglasses, ready for the day ahead as Young is into Campher, and that takes an edge. It's through to slip, it bounces, and I think it hits first slip. Ouch. On the hand, and he's looks like he's in quite a deal of pain. Paul Sterling, that is, isn't it? Just clutching his hand to his knee, but Campher didn't catch that one right.
No, he played. He was lucky. He played it with soft enough hands that it didn't fly to first slip. We're just seeing the replay on our monitor here, and it was a definite edge, but it had bounced twice before it got to poor old Paul Sterling, which is why it hit the bottom of his fingers.
Not too much delay. Sterling is fine to continue as Young is into Campher. That hits him on the pad. He moved the bat out of the way. Umpire unmoved despite the appeals from Ireland.
That was out. Played no shot. The ball was hitting, I think, probably middle. And both of the batters this morning have survived very adjacent LBW decisions. I suppose there was an element of doubt about that one, a small one at that, but you do have to feel for the poor bowler, Craig Young, both decisions against him.
Essex 102 for 3. Young into Campher, drives this one up towards mid-on, who just has to come wide to field that one for the single.
Yes, it is. It is. As we've discussed ad nauseum, the umpires are obviously under instruction to let people bat as long as possible. They can get out caught and they can get out bowled, but not at the moment LBW. And I think both of these batters now have benefited from that loose of the laws.
Young with a bouncer to Dockrell, who ducks out the way through to the wicket keeper. End of the over. Essex 103 for 3. Dockrell on 25 and Campher on 20. We had 2 LBW decisions in the Essex first innings. Yep. Josh Rymel for 21 and Curtis Campher was out LBW to Tom Mays as well. None in the Irish innings.
No, you're right, and Curtis Campher actually.
Oh, Foster as well.
He's kind of things have squared up. That was probably out. The one in the first innings probably wasn't. So, in the general scheme of things, I think everything is now evened out as far as Curtis Campher and LBW is concerned in this match. But we do have a change now, and it will be from the Hayes close end. Thomas Mays, who takes over. A tall man, right arm over the wicket. He'll be bowling to Curtis Campher, who turns him onto the leg side, but there is no run. It was straight to the man at short mid-wicket, who flicks the ball in, makes sure that there is no chance of a single. Just 2 slips now and a gully, so we're just seeing a little easing of the field for the change of bowlers. So 2 slips, gully, extra cover, mid-on, mid-off, shortish mid-wicket, fine leg, and I think possibly a third man or someone out there on the boundary. Oh, and that's a play and a miss outside. Is it a play and a miss? No, it isn't. It's touched on the way through. Curtis Campher has to go. What a start for Tom Mays in just the second ball of his spell this morning. He got a little bit of extra bounce, and I think that's what did for Curtis Campher. Playing down the line, the extra bounce deceived him. He feathered a touch through to the wicket keeper, and Lorcan Tucker snaffled that one, and it's a wicket for Tom Mays and a 4th wicket down for Essex, the 2nd this morning.
Yeah, it must have been the lightest of touch on the bat. Just trying to see if I can see the replay of that one, because I, like you, thought that was a play and a miss, but not any complaints from Curtis Campher as he was given his marching orders.
Yeah, we're just seeing the replay now, and certainly all of the slips, the wicket-keeper and the bowler were pretty sure he had edged it, and Curtis Campher, after an initial little stare at the umpire, walked off with, I don't think, too many regrets. That was a lovely piece of bowling.
I've seen bigger stares, I think.
Exactly. But no, nicely bowled. 103 for 4 then, a lead of just 27. Ireland will begin to fancy a possible victory charge if they continue to take wickets at this pace. It is another of the Irish contingent who steps out at number 6, Mark Adair. Also scored a nice half century in the first innings, made 62. He also impressed with the ball, as he's had a very good all-round game so far, Mark Adair. And you do feel he has almost certainly written his name on the team sheet for next week at Lord's. One of the... Oh, that's a tradition I haven't seen since... Was it? Shivnarine Chander Paul used to always get mark his guard with a little knock-in with the bail, which is what we've also seen from Mark Adair, as he lets that one go past the outside of the off stump and through to the wicketkeeper. A little bit of away movement for Mays. Just his 5th over of the innings so far.
Yeah, like you say, Mark Adair been one of the impressive Irish guests for Essex with that 62 in the first innings and with the ball as well.
Tom
watching him bowl.
Sorry, Victoria.
That's
yeah,
right.
Tom Mays is like several of the Essex, 4 of the Essex players. This is his first-class debut, and he took 4 wickets in the first innings. He has his 5th in the match so far. That, though, is a little too wide to tempt or trouble Mark Adair, who just looks at it as it goes past the off stump into the hands of the wicketkeeper Lorcan Tucker.
It was a fantastic start for him, wasn't it, on Friday, having been brought on to bowl and getting the breakthrough for Ireland. I bet he's been in his captain's ear asking, can I come on again yet?
Well, he removed Mark Adair in that first innings, so he'll be hoping to do the double. As in again a little bit of movement away swing, but again starting from too wide to interest or trouble the batter, and Mark Adair just goes for a little wander over in the square leg direction, very languid fashion, and the ball eventually makes its way around the field back to the bowler, who has bowled one beauty so far, which got the wicket of Curtis Campher, but has bowled a little too wide since then, particularly since Mark Adair has come to the crease. But this will be the end of the over, no ball and wides permitting. Yet to concede a run with the wicket, and it won't concede a run as that is driven nicely on the up to cover, but straight to the man at extra cover, and that is a wicket maiden for Mays, who was a bit expensive in the first innings, but so far has been very tidy in the second. 1 for 15 from 5 overs, and has bowled very nicely indeed. Has the breakthrough. Curtis Campher has gone 103 for 4 now. Essex a lead of just 27.
Yeah, it's pretty good going for Tom Mays to be able to have done that in both innings, to come on and get the wicket with the ball. Fionn Hand coming on from the river end as well, so 2 of the bowlers who impressed in with the ball for Ireland against Essex in the first innings. Fionn Hand taking 2 wickets, but really nice line and length from him. And I know Don Topley, who I was commentating with on Friday, was very impressed from what he saw from Fionn Hand.
No, I think Don was absolutely right. And he bowled without a lot of luck in his early stages, and it was good that he took a couple of late wickets, because his performance had merited the figures he ended up with.
In comes Hand, right arm over the wicket. Oh, and that's gone well down the leg side. Umpire signals the wide. It's gone all the way to the boundary.
Yeah, we talked him up, and then he bowls 5 wides first
The
up.
commentator's curse. 5 to the total for Essex.
Sorry, Fionn. He did. Everything was wrong with that delivery, wasn't it? Poor. We've all done it, but boy.
Tucker had no chance. Tumbling away. And the ball passing him away to the boundary opposite us. So second time attempt for Fionn Hand, second ball of his over. It's clipped into the leg side along the ground, and it will be fielded just for the single. Dockrell adding to his tally.
Might be slightly disappointed to miss out on that because it was on or around leg stump and he managed to pick out the one fielder out on the boundary on that leg side, but it is one more run to the total.
Adair is just taking his guard. And Hand will wait to bowl the third ball of the over. So we've had 5 wides off the first ball, single off the second. And Adair, I think, is just about ready for Hand's delivery. 109 for 4, Essex. In comes Hand past the umpire to Adair, up on his toes, just defends that one straight back down the pitch. Mid-on collects, no run.
Yeah, that was a much better delivery as far as Hand was concerned. But he's batted well, bowled well. It'd be interesting to see. I don't know whether he and Adair are up against each other for one of the all-rounder spots in the team, but they've both had good games.
Hand into Adair. This time he just dabs that one down into the offside. Fielder comes in from the covers and gives the ball a shine for Hand.
Now this is only his second first-class match. So again, with the amount of, but then as I was finding out yesterday, there hasn't been red ball cricket really in Ireland since 2019.
Hand into Adair, turns that one round the corner and it's all the way to the boundary. He has got bat on it as well, so the Essex score moves along to 113 for 4.
Yeah, he took full advantage of another loose ball down the leg side, and at the moment Fionn Hand is struggling to get his radar right.
Not sure how much we saw him bowl for the River End in the first innings. I'm sure he spent most of his time at the Hayes Close End, so I wonder whether there might be a switch up for Islanders. Hand is into Adair. This time he's on the front foot, just plays that one into the offside for no run. No,
it's interesting. Most bowlers did have a stint at both ends, and he did bowl, I think, in the evening from the River End. But you're right. The main bulk of it was certainly from the Hayes Close End.
Adair waits. Hand is in, and he's got down on one knee as he looked to play that one. He's missed it. It's through to the wicket keeper. No run.
Yes, the champagne cover drive. He held the pose, but the ball had gone past the outside edge. A little bit lucky on that occasion, as we just watch Hand's last delivery, which just straightened a little. Nice ball tempter, and then just moved away from the batter touch, but Adair survives.
Better ball to finish the over from Hand. 103 for 4 are Essex.
So Tom Mays, another of the players who started his life in South Africa, but his dad's family from Ireland, so he has made the switch. Only 22 years old, so a young man with plenty of talent as he comes in again, right arm over the wicket. Oh, and beats Dockrell outside the off stump. This is a good spell. It's right on the money immediately, Mays taking the wicket in his first over, and that is absolutely perfect line and length.
Lovely bit of bird song going on, I can just hear.
Yes, no, you're absolutely right. I was...
I don't know if that's coming through on the stream, but...
Yeah, the cameraman will be doing well to pick out the bird, I think. Once again, Mays is in, and that is driven on the up, and that's a brilliant catch. Diving to his right in the covers, And that was James McCullum, who's picked up another catch this morning. This one, though, the first one was catching practice. This one most certainly wasn't. It was driven on the up by Dockrell, and he had to dive to his right, and he's taken a blinding catch. And Dockrell couldn't quite believe his eyes when he saw Superman flying to his right to take that catch, but Dockrell has gone for 26 from 27 deliveries. There's another decent knock from George Dockrell to go with his first innings 74, so 100 runs in the match, as we just watch this catch again.
I think it might be Fee on Hand.
Number 7?
Was it? I thought it was 71, or was it number 7?
Oh, you're right. I saw 7. It was 71. You are absolutely right. It was Fee on Hand who flew Superman-like to his right-hand side. Never trust the first number you see.
Well, at least we can see the numbers today. There was a point on Friday where they all had the jumpers on.
Yeah. No, that was a superb catch. Well worth watching again and again. But second wicket for Mays in just his 2 overs, so he has really made an impact since coming into the attack. And Essex are now in a spot of bother. 113 for 5, a lead of just 37, and with major batting power beginning to run out. Will Buttleman, well, he'd like to make some runs after his single in the first innings. Noah Thane, who's been scoring runs for fun in in league cricket and for Essex seconds, he could also would like to score a few more runs, and now their county actually need them to. And that is another nice delivery from Mays that pitches outside off stump. Buttleman happy to let the ball go through, though, to his fellow wicket-keeper, and he comes out for a spot of gardening.
Yeah, would like to see Will Buttleman just stick around and be patient. It's not necessarily about scoring quickly for him here. Just needs to stay with Mark Adair, and we've seen more of Will Buttleman in white ball cricket than we have red ball cricket, but he is capable of scoring runs. We know that from the Essex seconds, but he just needs to be sensible.
Well, let's see if those wise words from Victoria are adhered to, and certainly from that rather nice looking defensive shot into the covers. I think he's been listening, Victoria.
Let's hope so.
As Mays again is on or around that off stump line, just keeping the batters honest at the moment. Tom Mays, if he does keep the improvement going as much as he is at the moment, could be a major feature for Ireland in the future. In the little red ball cricket that they play these days, it's in again, and that, however, is too wide to cause anybody any problems, except possibly the wicket keeper, but he stepped across smartly to take it just before, just adjacent to first slip Paul Stirling. We have the 2 slips, a gully, extra cover, a deepish point, mid on, mid off, mid wicket, fine leg. And Mays in once again, and that's driven nicely by Buttleman. He was on to the front foot immediately. I'm not sure it's going to reach. Yes, it is. It just began to gather speed as it approached the boundary rope. So a lovely way for Buttleman to get off the mark. Lovely cover drive. Just pitched up a little on that occasion, Mays, and that's almost the loosest delivery he's bowled so far, but Buttleman was on it very quickly indeed. So a wicket, though, a second this morning for Tom Mays. He'll be delighted with the way things are going, and at the moment, Essex will be a bit concerned because their score stands at 117 for 5 in the second innings, and that's a lead of just 41 currently. Buttleman is 4 not out, as is Adair.
Yeah, bit of a concern for Essex with the 3 wickets that have gone down so far this morning. And Fee on Hand will continue from the river end. Marco Adair, the batter on strike. He's just up on his toes to fend that one away into the onside. No run.
That was a better length and line from Fionn Hand. Obviously feeling a little better as well after his flying catch to dismiss his regular teammate George Dockrell, but that was much better after the leg side bowling in the first over.
And he is for the second ball of the over, and that's up in the air and drops for mid-on to come and gather for no run. Didn't catch that how he intended, Mark O'Dare, but he's landed safe.
Yeah, and I think it went into the ground, but it was interesting to watch the ball bounce over the bowler and then the poor umpire having to take evasive action.
Hand to O'Dare. He's clipped that one into the leg side and he'll get a single. Moves on to 118 for 5. I think Paul Newton will join us at the end of the over and Guy Swindles will go and have a coffee or go and enjoy the sun.
Yes, put my sunglasses on actually. I'm sort of beginning to strain slightly with my regular bins on at the moment in this gorgeous bright sunshine.
So we've had 2 dots and a single so far off of this Fionn Hand over. Will Buttleman now on strike for Essex. His hand is in, bowls a short ball which Buttleman ducks out of the way for and Tucker collects with the wicket keeping gloves on.
And a wide, it was so short and so high. They have adjudged that there was no way that Buttleman, even with the step ladder, could have reached that one, so it will have to be bowled again, and one more to the total. 118 for 5. 19 for 5.
So Hand just needs to get his accuracy as he's in again to Buttleman this time. Lovely drive once more from Buttleman, and the fielders aren't even trying to sprint after that one because it's gone all the way to the boundary for 4.
He likes the cover drive, doesn't he? That's the second glorious drive that we've seen from Will Buttleman in his short but pleasing innings so far this morning. He's played defensively when he's had to. The 2 opportunities he has been able to throw the arms at the ball outside off stump, he's done that. 8 from 6 deliveries and 2 beautiful 4s. So most pleasing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I should have let you do that. It's not often you get that.
I'll let you off.
Stole it.
So 119 for 5. Fionn Hand, the bowler. Will Buttleman, after that boundary, continues, and it's through to the wicket keeper for no run.
They hadn't quite added the 4.
Oh, they haven't. 123 for 5. You're more up to date than